Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Climb. I'm your host, Adrian Branch, a former world champion LA Laker and also ESPN analyst. This show is all about celebrating people's stories, how they turn setbacks to success, overcoming potholes and obstacles. Because if you think about it, we all have mountains in our lives sometimes to climb. That's why we call ourselves climbers. And you're a climber, I'm a climber if you don't quit. So come along and join us, leave the outside noise, and enjoy real conversations with real people about real life. You're welcomed here. Well, think about this, everyone. For many people, life plays a big role and sports plays a big role in people's lives. It's like a masterclass to real life. And today's guest has an amazing story that his train was on the tracks. He was going to be the next baseball great, but he had to make a pivot, and so he was successful in another lane. And I'm so excited to bring you this guest. There's going to be so many verticals that you can touch base on, but let's get him on the show. Bruce Rosenblum, welcome to the show, sir.
Pleasure to be here, Adrian. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you allowing me to tell my story.
Well, I want to jump right into it, Bruce, because it's fascinating, and I think our listeners will really identify with so many things. So I want to take you back, Southern Cal native. Take us back to a time when you thought you were going to be a baseball player and a success for your dad and for yourself, but then at 19, reality hit. So tell us, what was it like for the first 18 years of your life?
Okay, well, first of all, I was born in Elizabeth, New Jersey. In the same hospital, someone you may know very well was born in Rick Barry.
Oh, my, Hall of Famer, underhand shot.
I had a chance to work with him on a TV show that we did, a game show, and he was the proposed host at the time, and we got along famously. It was really, really great. But I was my train track rail or however you want to describe it started from the moment I was born. I was born to a dad and mom who were from Brooklyn, New York. And my dad was a diehard Brooklyn Dodgers fan. And when I was born, I had the baseball glove, the ball, and the Brooklyn Dodgers cap in the crib. And I was going to be, in his eyes, a Brooklyn Dodger one day. Our family had some setbacks. I had a little sister who passed away, and it had a devastating impact on the family. And when she was 3, I was 6, and the family at that time decided they were going to try to get a new start. My grandparents had moved to Southern California, so my mom and dad packed up, they sold the house, and we moved to San Fernando Valley. And I was 6 at the time. And baseball was always something, that was on in the house. The radio was always on. We were always listening to games. And in school, I was always participating in baseball. So baseball was kind of like became my life. And the fortunate thing for my dad was I actually loved the game. And I kind of liked the idea of one day being a professional baseball player. I wrote letters to baseball players. Sandy Koufax was my idol growing up in the 60s. And, being a Dodger was, something I wanted to do. And so I wanted to do one of the things that was popular out in Southern California was Little League Baseball. But my mother was from an Orthodox Jewish family, and she would not allow me to play baseball until my Hebrew school teachings were over when I was 13 upon my bar mitzvah. So I couldn't play organized baseball. So really it was softball and street ball and teaching myself how to play because I couldn't participate until I was 14 years old. And so that's what I did. I suffered through years of religious school and couldn't wait till the day after my 13th birthday, and my dad signed me up and I played. And I imagine I had some natural talent because I had a great 14-year-old season, made All-Stars at 14, made All-Stars at 15. And my dad said, it doesn't matter that you never played. When you get to high school, your coaches are going to see your talent and I'm going to make the team. And I worked real hard and I made the team. And
City, you guys won the city title.
well, before that was interesting. I actually, my dad was, he was a linotype operator with the local newspaper that was the Valley News and Green Sheet at the time. And he used to get tickets for all the Dodger games. We'd go every fourth night to see Koufax. And one year they gave him tickets to be on the field for a Dodger public workout. And I'm left-handed, and
I'm left-handed.
this was first base. And my idol on the Dodgers at the time was Wes Parker. He was a smooth fielder, switch hitter. He was just, my idol growing up. And we went to this public workout in February of 1970. And I met Wes Parker and took a photo with him and had it hanging in my room, and just always tried to emulate Wes Parker on the field, at the plate, the whole thing. And in 1971, as a junior, I made the starting lineup for our high school team. We went undefeated, went all the way through the city playoffs, and played in the LA City championship game in Dodger Stadium against Fremont High School. And their star player was a guy named Chet Lemon, who played Major League Baseball for many years. He just recently passed away. He played with the White Sox and the Tigers. Outstanding baseball player. In that game, as fate would have it, I got up in the third inning. I got a base hit. I was sacrificed to second and third, and then scored on another base hit. And our team won the game 1-0 in Los Angeles. We were undefeated city champions. And and my locker in Dodger Stadium was Wes Parker's locker.
Nice.
And my number was Wes Parker's number. I was number 28. He was number 28. So I was really like channeling Wes Parker the whole night. I mean, I went into Dodger Stadium. I got this hit. It was like I had like an 8 or 9 pitch at bat. It was crazy. It was really great. I had a bet with a friend of mine as to which one of us were going to get drafted into the majors. So I didn't get drafted. He did. My friend John Flynn, close friend of mine, all these years later, he made it to the big leagues and pitched for the Orioles. And I went to a junior college. I went to College of the Canyons. It was a new school.
Made all conference.
Made all conference. It was coached by a guy named Mike Gillespie, who is in the College Baseball Hall of Fame. He coached the College of the Canyons, but he had played at USC on their national championship team, I think in 1959.
Well, let me stop you right here for a second. I'm going to stop you here. So far, you're on a roll. I'm on a roll. The train is on the tracks. Your desire is to be a baseball player, and you have success. Now, for our listening audience, you said something very key that we're going to come back to. You couldn't play baseball until your bar mitzvah. So you had to play softball. You had to play softball. Keep that in mind. Go ahead and tell the rest of this story, because that softball is going to be legendary for you.
In a few minutes here. So anyway, to make this long story a little bit shorter, I go. So Mike Gillespie played on an SC national championship team in '59, and then after he left College of the Canyons, he ended up coaching at USC and won a national championship. So he's in the College Baseball Hall of Fame as a national championship player and coach, which is very rare. He's only like one of a few players that have done that. But he was an outstanding coach, and his leadership was quiet leadership, and he taught us, and he taught me a lot. But I kind of got a little full of myself at the end of that year. I'd made all conference. I had a great year, and the school I really wanted to go to was Cal State Northridge. They were a local school. They had won the Division II baseball national championship in 1970, and it was, I think it was 71 actually. And I wanted to go there more than anything. And the coach at Cal State Northridge actually recruited me after my year at College of the Canyons, and I made the decision to leave and go to Cal State Northridge. And in hindsight, it's always 20/20, because at that point I should have stayed at College of the Canyons and stayed with Coach Gillespie, and possibly even gotten into USC or some other bigger baseball school where I could have really developed my talent. But it didn't matter. I was at Cal State Northridge. I couldn't have been happier. And then reality started to set in right away. When I got out there against the kind of talent that I was playing against, I realized that probably not playing baseball at a younger age and learning the skill sets in remembering signs and doing all the little things, having a better baseball IQ. I mean, I had talent. I could hit. I could throw. I wasn't very fast, but I could still run okay. But I didn't have the baseball IQ I needed to perform at a Division I level, and it became it became clear. And on top of that, the coach and I were not seeing eye to eye on a number of different levels. And
You
they,
ended up giving your uniform in after
for
with
my
the
unit,
JV and a
yeah,
Cincinnati Reds tryout, though. You had that tryout.
right.
So,
But I had been offered a tryout with the Cincinnati Reds at Antelope Valley College up in Palmdale, California. And it was a scout named Bob Barton had called me and said, "Hey, I'd like you to come out and try out." And I did. And it was a cattle call. There was a lot of talent out there. And trying out at first, there was like 10 guys at first base, and they were all really good. And I had an okay tryout. And at the end, he came up to me and said, I could sign you right now for like $5,000, and I can send you to our club in Iowa. And he said, but I would suggest that you go back to school and play. And I didn't really want to tell him, I'm going back to school, but I'm not going to be playing. And my dad and I drove back home, and I had made the decision at that point that I wasn't really happy at that point anymore. I realized I was able to see my talent level where it was, and I knew that it would be an uphill climb to even try to get back on the team. And my dad, who was still seeing things through rose-colored glasses, kind of did what dads who see their sons through rose-colored glasses do. He stuck his nose in places he shouldn't.
oh,
And it made the situation a little more difficult. It made it almost impossible for me to go back and apologize and try to get back on the team. So I had to make a life decision at that point. And what did I want to do? Well, I had to start really focusing on, at that point, life after baseball. Now, most players, life after baseball means they've had a 10-year major league career, and they're now going to go into the world and do other things. And a lot of these guys, based on their performance and their name, can have doors open for them. But there I am at 21 years old with no doors opening and no major league contract in my future. So I buckled down. I started becoming a much better. I majored in political science. I thought maybe law school. But what happened a year later, as I was going into my senior year, there was a program called the Sacramento semester that became available. And it was taking 2 students from each California State University campus. I think there was like 13 campuses at the time. And there was like 26 of us, 26 total students. And I was one of the 2 students picked from Cal State Northridge to represent the school and go into this program. And I ended up working for an intern for a state senator, and he was overseeing a committee called the California Motion Picture Development Council, which was kind of associated with the television and motion picture industry, because we issued permits for production companies to shoot on state land. So I got to meet a lot of people in the industry there, and it was a lot of fun. But the funds ran out, and the job ended. I graduated from the program, came back home, and it's like, what do I do now? I needed a job. So my uncle was working at a research house in Hollywood. It was a place that tested movies and TV shows for the entertainment industry. It was called the Preview House. I went to visit him one day, and I said, and he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, my job ended over at the Motion Picture Council, and I need a job. I had gotten engaged to my wife, Jackie. At the time, we were newly engaged, and we were getting married in a few months down the road. And I'm sitting here without any income. So my uncle said, well, I'll send you down to our HR person. Maybe they got something for you. So I met with the HR person. They had an opening, and I got a job. Not a very well paying job, but it was a job. And I'd show up every morning and, do my best. And the guy that was running the entertainment division, that was head of all the testing, liked my self-starting attitude and always asking to help and be involved and try to learn more. And he said, I need somebody at night to do client duty, to kind of schmooze the clients. And when all the heads of research and the producers and directors come in, I need someone to kind of be there for them, answer questions, get what they need, make them comfortable. So I did that. and I was able to earn extra money, and I was enjoying it, and it was kind of like it was networking, but I didn't even realize it was networking because I was so naive about business at the time. And at some point I got comfortable and I started sending my resume out to the different studios, to these heads of research. And I got a call from Paramount Pictures in 1980. And I went on the interview, and the guy was sitting there and he was looking at me and he goes, I really like you. And, and I think you could do really well. He says, I've got a tough decision now because I was all ready to hire this one person, but I really like you. And so I don't know which one of you to choose. He says, I see on your resume.
You played baseball.
Baseball player. In fact, I was. He said, you were tried out with the Reds? I said, yeah, I had a tryout with the Reds. I was city champion in high school. I was all conference my first year in college. I had, played half a season at Cal State Northridge. Yeah, I'm okay. He says, well, we have a very competitive softball team here at the studio.
Now, I'm going to stop you there for a second. Now,
Okay.
for our listeners, that was what we were talking about at the beginning of our show, that when you have one goal as to be a baseball player, that's your dad's goal, that's your goal, and you're doing well, and all of a sudden you have to pivot because you realize that there's just levels to it, and you weren't able to get there. So now Bruce is getting ready to fall back on what he got trained under with softball. This is an amazing story. Tell our listeners what happened with softball and that bet that was on the side.
Okay, well, the thing is that I was a much better softball player because I played so many years of softball before I actually played hardball. So I'm very comfortable playing softball, and and hitting a softball. So the guy says to me, we have our first game this weekend, and I haven't even started at the company yet. I don't even know if I'm going to like the job that I've been hired to do. And they said, come on out to an Encino Little League field. We're going to be on the field, and you come out, and I'm going to get you on the team. I said, okay. So I show up, and it was a star-studded team. It was all the senior executives from development and programming, and there was writers from Happy Days. The catcher was Aaron Russo, the producer of The Rose and Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis. Big movies. And this guy looked like he drove up to the field in a black Lincoln Continental with a black sheepdog, and he had big black curly hair, and they all looked. It was so Hollywood. It was like you couldn't script it. Our pitcher was Henry Winkler, the Fonz from Happy Days, and our captain of our team was a guy named Frank Yablans, an icon in the movie business. He was the head of Paramount Motion Picture Group. And he had a bet with a guy named Guy McElwain, who was the head of, I think it was International Creative Management. I think we played ICM that day. And Annette Funicello's husband was their third baseman. It was very Hollywood. And Guy and Frank had a $10,000 bet on the game. And so I'm out there, and they look at me and they go, well, they said to my boss, so who's this guy? He said, oh, he's a new employee in the research department. And so, well, can he play? And he said, well, yeah. He said, well, let's see. So somebody said, well, throw him some pitches and see if he can hit the ball. So I get up there, and I'll tell you, my adrenaline was flowing like crazy. And everything that they pitched to me, I was hitting out of the field everywhere. And so when I was done with batting practice tryout that they gave me, someone said, oh my God, okay, well, where's he going to play? And Frank says, I don't give a darn. He can play anywhere he wants. And I was like, all right, that's really cool. So here I am. Nobody knows me from Adam. I'm walking onto a field with senior, super high profile executives, and they bat me fourth, and they put me in the outfield. The first inning, we get up, and McElwain loads the bases, and I get up, and I'm batting fourth with the bases loaded now. And he pitches me a few pitches, and I take them. And he starts yelling at me. He's like cursing at me. He goes, hit the effing ball, will you? Effing strike, will you? I mean, it was nasty. It was
so
nasty.
The bases are loaded. Your big moment. You're the ringer, but they don't know this. And there's a $10,000, which is probably the equivalent of $50,000 today's money. It's big money riding on this moment. Then
Big
what
money
happened,
ride.
Bruce?
The next pitch he throws me, I hit. And my friend Mike, who was the guy that actually hired me, that was back out in California on vacation, tells me, that ball, you hit that ball so far, I think it's still orbiting the Earth.
That was 50 years ago. It's still going.
And,
Well
and
done.
I ended up going like 5 for 5. I had like 10 RBIs. We crushed them. And,
Who won the money?
paid up the blondes the 10 grand. And we had, it was unbelievable. So now Monday I start my job.
A Star is Born. Star is
And I
Born.
don't know media research from a hole in the ground. Okay. I didn't know a rating from a sheriff. I didn't know any, I was there to learn. They were going to teach me. My first job, the first thing I had to do in the morning is I had to write the ratings down from all the different markets that provided overnight ratings on a one sheet. And I'd have to take them to like 30 people around the lot, all the senior executives, most all the guys that I played ball with. And it took me 2 hours to do this run that should have taken.
They want tips on hitting.
They want to feel like it. Guy in these, what am I doing wrong? My arms too high. What am it was like instant networking. I became so visible on that lot with all the people that mattered. And, so I came home, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to succeed at this place. I really like the environment. I really like the people.
Let me stop you there for a second. A moment. John Wooden says, be your best when your best is needed. You're coming up, hitting fourth. And it was more than just that moment. You hit a home run, you clean the bases. They win a $10,000 bet, which is a lot of money back then. And then you have the credibility with the big bosses. So 2 things are happening. I'll just push this along a little bit and say, you were entrusted after going from that Paramount to Telepictures, and you were the first director. And then you said this one, I wrote this down. Many face their big opportunities without a roadmap, but you said sound judgment, solid relationships, and then emotional EQ. Tell us about that when you made basically chicken salad out of chicken scraps. You did something out of nothing, but you had the EQ to push that vision through.
When I was in high school, I had a baseball coach who taught us business lessons and life lessons that you would normally learn in a master's program at Harvard. And I carried those principles with me every day of my life because this coach knew something. We were undefeated city champs because we were accountable. We had built-in trust among our teammates. We played as a team. We prepared. We communicated. We had a winning culture, and we had an emotional IQ. We knew when not to talk back. We knew when to speak, and when we spoke, we needed to be buttoned up and knew what we were talking about. Because if we didn't, people will see through BS faster than anything in this world. And so I took those principles that I had learned as a baseball champion, not only from my high school coach, but from Mike Gillespie at College of the Canyons. The same thing, but not as loud as my high school coach, more of a quiet leader, but instilled the same principles. I carried those principles with me at Paramount. I did whatever I set my goal. I said, this is an industry, this is a business I want to be in. And I want to get to the top. I want to be the best in this business. I want to be an industry leader in my field. And so I started looking at what others in the media research field were doing at the network level, at the studio level, at production companies. I started going through the file because the guy that hired me, he quit. He was supposed to train me. He quit the first week I was there. He showed up one day and said, I'm leaving. And then at the end of the week, he said, goodbye, good luck, and I'm out of here. And so I would stay, I would do it. I told my wife, I said, look, at this point, we didn't have any children. I said, I'm going to be staying late. I'm going to be reading these files. I'm going to be learning the language. I'm going to learn how to speak to management and convey this information. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to bust my rear end to be the best I can be. And And those principles, I realized right away that the shared leadership principles in sports are the same shared principles in business. And I was able to do that to create a reputation of being someone who was buttoned up and someone who was no BS. I mean, I was the youngest person on that staff and the least experienced and the least knowledgeable at that time, right? But yet, when the producer of um, uh, Taxi wanted to know why in a certain market his ratings were off, they would track me down at whether I was at lunch, if I was at the gym, wherever I was. One time I was soaking wet with sweat at the gym and I had to get on our department bicycle and I walked into a meeting with senior producers and directors of Taxi. And Ed Weinberger said, explain to me what happened here. And I knew exactly what happened. And I was very well versed on the problem. The show was preempted. That's really what it was. Taxi didn't air, and there was some news thing going on, and news didn't perform at the kind of levels that Taxi did. So I said, look, in Chicago it performed great, in Philadelphia it performed great, San Francisco great, but in New York it wasn't on, and therefore that's why the number dipped. And he said, oh, thank you so much.
Let
And
me go
that
back to this. Oh, I cut you off. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I established trust. I networked through the baseball. I established trust. I was able to create systems for reporting the ratings that allowed me to be accessible and visible to the people that needed to have questions answered. And I started using all my sports leadership principles that I learned to infuse into my daily activity. And it got to the point where I was there almost 2 years where I got recruited by a new company called Telepictures. Because the guy that hired me had been following my career, and the feedback on me at that point was, this is somebody that if you're starting a new company and you need a research guy, he's the guy. And that's what Telepictures did. They hired me to be their first research guy. Now they didn't know what they needed, and I didn't know what they had. So I had to again, make that transition to a new company, and there I was without the roadmap. So I had to build trust. I had to network. I made it my business to learn what all the other people at the company. It was a small company, so they would take me under their wing. The marketing guy, who's my friend for 50 years, he took me under his wing and taught me marketing. The PR people taught me PR. The lawyers taught me the legal language. I mean, everybody helped me to become a better executive. And I went from director at the age of, oh God, it was 1981. So I was 27 years old. A year later, I'm vice president of research at Telepictures Corporation. And our shows that we had on the air, for people that want to know who we were, we had The People's Court. We had Love Connection. We were selling made-for-TV movies for producers who couldn't get deals to have their movies distributed through the major studios. And then one thing I did, which was, again, just by sheer luck, one of the big programs that came off the television networks, that came off of NBC, was a show called Real People. And Paramount had passed on it because they didn't think it had the kind of demographics needed to succeed in syndication. So they passed on it. But here, and I was the one that did the analysis on it at Paramount and provide, and basically what I said is, the show isn't going to have what it takes to succeed. Well, as fate would have it, Telepictures picked up the show from the producer and they were like, we got Real People.
Nice.
Oh my God. So here I am 2 weeks earlier telling Paramount to pass. And now I've got to turn this into a saleable television show at Telepictures. What do I do? And I broke out tons and tons of data, and I found patterns that I could use to link
from years ago. Now, let me stop you there for a second, because this is so rich. I'm going to ask this one. What about the wisdom that you gained? Because I thought this was fantastic over the years where you said basically you weren't going to be outworked, and you started a program from ground up. You were not uncomfortable going back 10 years to see if a program worked. I love this one that you said. Explain instinct versus evidence. outcomes always the same, but best creative decisions. What does that mean? Instinct
Well, with
versus evidence.
it's mainly creatives versus research. Now, this is a crazy story. People's Court was the biggest show we had at Telepictures, and it was produced by a guy named Stu Billett, who did not believe in research. He did not want to hear what an audience had to say about his show. It was his baby, and he knew it was best for the show. And anyway, so Stu didn't believe in research. And so no matter what we did to try to, say, hey, Stu, you might want to try this, you might want to try that. He'd say, yeah, research. What do the audience know? I'm the creator. I know, my baby's the most beautiful baby that can be created. Nobody can tell me how to make my baby prettier. And so that was his instincts versus our evidence. And for a number of years, he was able to get away with that. But it wasn't until the show started to go into decline. And the reason it went into decline is because the audience perception of the show was that it was scripted and not real. And it was very real. There were real cases with real people, but some of these cases were so bizarre that the audiences started saying, you know what, we've been watching this stuff for years and it can't be real. So he said, Stu, you need to do some research to figure out how to reposition this show. We need to do something to make sure audiences understand that the show is absolutely real. I said, what about using Judge Wapner in the promos? And he said, I will never compromise Joe Wapner. I will never put the judge in the marketing campaign because it'll take away his credibility. That was his instinct. But we said, Stu, let's do a number of different campaigns, but let's do one with Joe Wapner just for the heck of it. Have him do one. So we did all these different promotion campaigns, even a music video for one, and then just other ones where it was clips from the show and a voiceover. And then Judge Wapner decided he helped us out. So he did 2 different promos, and he did them in his suit. He just did them in a coat and tie. And the voiceover was, Judge Wapner talking about the people and how the cases are real. And then he said, and one of the things he said was, yeah, this show is absolutely undeniably real. And we said, that's the campaign that's going to test the best.
That's the hook.
And it did. But you know what happened? The audience said, of all the commercials that you showed us, we'll buy back into the show. But the one that will help us buy back into the show is the ads with Judge Wapner telling us it's absolutely undeniably real. But here's the thing, Telepictures. Why is your judge in a suit? Judges are supposed to be in robes. That's what gives them their authority, aura. A judge in a robe is authoritarian, right? He's the guy making, when that gavel comes down and he's in that robe, nobody's gonna think a judge is lying to an audience if he's in his robe. So he said, Stu, Judge Wapner tested through the roof, but he's got to do the spots in his robes. So we went back and we shot all the commercials. The whole campaign was centered around Judge Wapner and just in his robes with his gavel, talking about the show being absolutely undeniably real. And you know what happened? The show went from tanking to going all the way back up and stayed at the top of its game for as long as Joe Wapner was on the air with it. It was an incredible turnaround. And it was just because, the creative instinct was fine initially, but it wasn't fine. But all of a sudden, when the show didn't do well, all of a sudden now they're going to trust and research, and this trust.
Let me jump in here because we're going to bump up against time, and I want the audience to hear this. So okay. I want to go a speed round, and I want you to give me one word answer to first thing that comes to your mind. So I'm gonna ask a few questions. It's like a basketball 24-second shot clock. So what's the first one word that comes to your mind? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Family.
Most important thing The most important thing in my life.
Television.
One of the things that helps me enjoy life, but not
Sports.
the
Oh,
important thing.
I'm sorry.
Sports.
Okay.
Sports is
Sports.
a close into family. I
Nice.
love it. My order would be family, sports, and then my job.
Here's a big one. Leadership.
Um, without leadership, you're destined to fail.
Philanthropy.
The most rewarding thing you can do
That's
in your
nice.
life.
That's
The
nice.
feeling. There's no better feeling than being able to give back and not make a big deal about it. Just do it because you feel it in your heart, and don't do it for the props that you're going to get for doing it.
One more. Here we go.
Yes.
Legacy.
Um, Legacy. That's a good one. Being a good person, doing the right thing, being helpful, operating with honesty and integrity.
Oh, I got to ask this one then. I got to ask
Sure,
this. Two more. They opposite, but we'll go with this one.
sure.
Biggest regret. One word if you have it. Biggest regret.
That I didn't have a better relationship with my father.
Whoa. Greatest success.
My family.
Nice.
I've got 4 children, grown,
8
married,
grandchildren.
children, boy and a girl each. One of our grandchildren is full-blown cerebral palsy, which has opened us up to the world of special needs. And being able to have succeeded in a career that afforded me the opportunity to not have to work. Very lucky not have to work after retirement and spend time with my family. I've got 2 grandchildren here because it's my son-in-law's 40th birthday. They're out, and we have 2 grandchildren. And tomorrow, 2 more grandchildren are coming over to support my 5-year-old grandchild as he plays in his 5-year-old basketball league.
tell tell him Uncle A says to shoot it every time.
My success. Um, you know, success in business is something I always wanted, and getting to the top of my game, being executive vice president of media research at Warner Brothers and having a 35-year career there, that's great. But that's the thing that I'm second most proud of, because what I'm most proud of is that I was able to be there for my family during all of that time of spending hours upon hours in meetings and working and learning, but finding ways to be there for my family, being able to give back to the community, lets me sleep very peacefully at night, knowing that I don't. I
Well
think
done.
maybe my downfall was I wasn't ruthless enough in business, but I always knew that in any business, and in sports, it very well. I know it in business, that when it comes time for you to leave, corporations are heartless and decisions are made, and no matter, you're only as good as what you did recently, and when it's your time to move on, you move on. And so my wife always said, we're on a roller coaster ride. We're enjoying the ups, and it's going up and up, but it's going to come down. And knowing that it was going to come down at some point, and it did, I just wanted to be able to leave with my dignity and be able to leave with people saying, it was great having you here all those years. Thank you for everything you did. They did right by me when I left, because I saw people, as you probably saw people along the way, who were given 30 minutes to pack their belongings and then come back in 2 weeks and get the rest of their belongings, because that's how ruthless and business can be. So
Nice.
I think I got very lucky in my career. And I just think it was the principles that I learned in sports that I carried with me. The funny thing is, we had a chairman's leadership meeting in New York, and I got invited by Dick Parsons and Jeff Bucas, who were the last 2 chairmen of the Warner Brothers before I left the company. And there was about 50 senior executives, all presidents and executive vice presidents from around the country. And they brought in a world-renowned CEO coach, a guy by the name of Ram Charan. And now I'm in my late 40s, getting close to 50, and I'm in this leadership meeting. And this guy on a blackboard in Time Warner Center starts writing down the leadership principles we all need. to put into practice. Accountability, trust, preparation, communication, driving success. You need to be a team player. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, is this guy like my high school baseball coach reincarnated? And it dawned on me at that point, however many years after my career was over, that my high school coach wasn't yelling at me because he didn't like me. He was teaching me principles for success because he knew that most of us were never going to be professional athletes, that most of us were going to go on to get married and have families and go and get jobs. And some of us will go into bigger businesses, some will go into small. And we needed to know if we were going to be successful, we needed to apply the same principles to our lives to be better men, to be better husbands, to be better fathers, to be better businessmen, to be better members of the community. And that's what this guy taught us. And we won. We were undefeated. Those principles helped. We had a mediocre team, but we all executed on the goal that we had set for ourselves. And that's what I carried with me throughout my whole professional career. And I'm one of the lucky ones because I got to tell you, I got the stat here. 70% of executives who fail do so from not from lack of intelligence or technical skill, but failures of leadership, character, and relationship management. They don't know how to build relationships. They don't know. They don't use good judgment. High potential entertainment professionals who plateau mid-career due to the absence of 1 in 3 high potential entertainment professionals who plateau mid-career due to the absence of a personal leadership philosophy and a successful framework.
Nice.
And so that
Nice.
I had that instilled in me at a young age, just from baseball. And those principles, they are solid steel. And corporations change, times change, challenges will always come and go, but the principles
don't change. Hey,
and if you follow them, you will
be successful. Nice.
But you don't stop when you reach your goal. You have to keep learning. You have to keep growing. You have to keep evolving. You have to keep changing, because that's how fast businesses change these days. And if you don't keep up with it, you'll get left at the starting gate and you'll become irrelevant. So as long as you're putting out there, I think one of the most important things somebody can have is a passion for what they do. I think it's important. And sometimes you need to take a year off from school or go somewhere and travel or come back, clear your head to find what your passion is. And that's when I mentor students, I tell them, they say, well, how do I get what do you do to get your first job? What do you look for as a hiring manager? I said, well, I look for someone who's got passion. Sometimes I want passionate than more than somebody that has knowledge. I want the passion because sometimes people with knowledge, they get a little bit full of themselves sometimes and they pick something up quickly and they want to move on. But I want somebody who's passionate, who wants to stay and wants to learn from me and is going to give me, some solid time helping me rather than, just, I don't want,
I like that.
I want to be there. I don't want to be a stepping stone. I want to be a place that people are comfortable. I want to be able to give them the tools and the support that they need to do their job and build systems that last and are successful. So,
Bruce, that is outstanding. I'm going to stop it right there. Dr. Phil would say, I know when to stop talking. That is fantastic. And for our listeners, that was a signature statement. Find your passion, and don't allow yourself to be outworked, working it legally and morally. Beautiful, outstanding. Hey, Bruce, where could people find you if they want to know more wisdom about you? Where can they find you nowadays?
The best place is I've kind of rekindled my LinkedIn profile. And so I've been reconnecting with a lot of people I used to work with. And that's probably the best place. Just find me on LinkedIn under Bruce. I think it's under Bruce K. Rosenblum.
There we go. Bruce K. Rosenblum. You are a
former EVP, retired from Warner Brothers Media Research.
Oh, these young people find it. Don't worry. Thank you.
Okay.
Bruce, you're a star. I'm looking forward to doing this again. Thanks for hanging, and thanks for so much wisdom. Bruce Rosenblum, everybody. Nice job, Bruce.
Thank you so much, Adrian. It was, an honor and a privilege to be with you. You're somebody who, it's so funny how we met. and I feel like I've known you all my life, and I feel that we've been friends for many, many years. It's just
Kindred spirits.
very, very easy to talk with you.
We will do it again. We will do it again. Well done.
Thank you. Same to you.
Wow. Guys, take a deep breath on that one. How about all the wisdom that Bruce had? He started out as a baseball player. Heart was broken that he couldn't make it to the next level, but didn't waste that experience. Softball, coming up in the clutch in front of all the big bosses, hit a home run, and then they were asking for his leadership. So that is fantastic. Run this show back again. So much wisdom that was talked about. Listen, follow us on social media at Adrian Branch Speaks. Download The Climb wherever podcasts are available. And like we love to say here, remember, for our climbers, our climbers, our climbers, thanks for listening, but also be encouraged and keep climbing. We'll see you next time, everybody. Hey climbers, did you enjoy the show today but want to learn more on how to climb in your career and personal life? Go to adrianbranchspeaks.com and check out our workshops for more detail. Taken from over 40 years of my professional experience, these workshops have helped countless people develop champion mindsets to thrive. So sign up today